and somebody slaps your bare bottom and then it goes weird, sexy cult.
Eavesdroppin. Ooh, there she is, little Michelle. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Back in the robe. I've missed this robe.
Back in the room, back in the robe.
It's a Roomba. Roomba robe.
Room for robing.
Yes, room for robing. I've missed the robe.
It is like almost midday and you're in the robe. Lazy day?
Well, I had to get ready for the recording. There was no time to brush the hair or even get changed. I just had to get ready for our gorgeous eavesdroppers. This is what I do for you. I stay in a robe all day.
Aren't they gorgeous? We've got somebody who deserves a shout out, new Patreon, Joe Hitch.
Hi, Joe. Hi.
Welcome.
Welcome, new eavesdroppers. So happy to have you on board.
So Joe now has access to all the television recommendations in written form so that she can refer back when she finds herself with a spare hour or 6. And she's also got access to
extra content.
Extra content once a month. We haven't done February's yet. We've still got something up our sleeve for you, eavesdroppers. Don't worry. It does end up getting in the inbox eventually. But there's also the links. Links ahoy, Michelle. Links a go-go.
Links a go-go. And really, if you have listened to an episode...
It's better than Instagram.
Well, it is.
It's better than Meta because obviously people are trying to get off Meta these days. I won't go into it because of the white billionaires, etc.
Oh, God, that's another conspiracy theory waiting to happen.
Well, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's the truth, babes. All the people who run the Meta and all the social medias, they're very wealthy men.
Yeah, of course they are.
People are angry and they want to come away from it and they want to find an alternative, but too late. That stuff's like crack and we're already on it. You know I love a bloody reel or two. I could stare at Instagram for hours.
I know, it's very addictive. We love our Instagram, we do. It's a great format, what can I say? They hit a winning format there. But it's hard to get off the social media. You've kind of got to do a bit of a purge. Otherwise, you end up, just one, I'll just double check and then you're back on. You know, everyone's tried to get off at some point.
Let us do the purging for you. Then you can just sign up to Patreon and go over there and look at all the lovely links that Michelle has put in relation to, and sometimes nothing to do with, our weekly stories. It's a fun time.
But it's to do with what we talk about. So, for example, if you talk about lion's mane, I'm going to put a little reference to a lion's mane in the links so people go, oh, that's what a fucking lion's mane is.
Do you know, my husband is going full force into mushroom production. He has now made tinctures. I had my tincture this morning. I've given up the gummies because they don't work. I'm now on tinctures that my husband made himself.
Right. Well, speaking of the gummies, I was telling everyone about this great Kickstarter campaign I had funded where they were going to be making this brand new distilling kit, which just takes moments instead of hours and super easy. Well, we got an email from Kickstarter saying Moofy, which is the name of the company.
Are we allowed to say that?
Well, they've been kicked off.
Oh,
I mean, why not? I need to...
It's not free advertising for Moofy.
No. I mean, they've been kicked off Kickstarter because they wouldn't tell us the reason. It's either because of intellectual property, i.e. they stole the idea, or it was a scam. So anyone else who got excited about funding the movie, and I'm telling you, we put like 500 francs behind that fucking Kickstarter campaign. That's how much the movie cost. I mean, we got it all back, but yeah, be careful. Be careful out there.
You know, Michelle likes to warn you all to be careful of scams, and she almost got scammed herself. Goodness me. I have some television recommendations, Michelle.
Lay it on me. I've got one from Jen the Hen.
Oh.
Yes, but you tell me first. Let's go.
Well, Safka's in touch. This week she watched American Manhunt, the O.J. Simpson story. I think I've seen that, where you've got Selma Blair as the Kardashian mum. What's her name? The momager. What's her name, that lady? I couldn't remember then. I can't remember now.
Oh, is it the one that then became a man to a woman, trans?
No. It's the mother.
The actual mother.
She gave birth, yes.
Oh, I don't remember. The Kardashians were never... They were on my radar, but I never watched. I can honestly, hand on heart, say I have never watched an episode of the Kardashians.
Well, you know what? The O.J. Simpson story is tied up with the Kardashians because... And I believe
he was the lawyer.
David Schwimmer played him in this show, I think. And he was the lawyer, exactly. But that's not the only thing she watched. She also watched something called Yacht Rock, a documentary. I'm very intrigued to see what Yacht Rock is and watch that.
That sounds fantastic.
Yes.
Jen got in touch to say on Netflix, she's been watching, she called it The R Murders, but it's a Swedish series. Scandi Noir, Scandi Murders series.
I love that. Yeah.
It's the Ore Murders.
Okay.
It's set in a ski town, a little bit like where I live. I've been to Ore. It's a ski town, not as beautiful as here. The skiing's not as good. Sorry, Swedes. But yes, Mum said it is addictive. Everyone she knows, she's been recommending this series too. So now Eavesdroppers...
Loves the murders.
She does love a murder. She loves a good
Are
murder.
they just stabbing each other in the heart with their ski poles? Things like that?
I don't know. I haven't watched yet, but I will.
Great. I might too. Well, I took a leaf out of your recommendation book, Michelle. I went on to our list and we did give it a final bash. White Lotus. We went past the 4th episode because I found it really hard for some reason to get past it. But then we watched both series with my daughter, which was a bit of a troubling thing because the second series is very sexual, very bloody sexual. I had to put my hands in front of her eyes for most of it.
There was a line in that second series, and I wish I could remember it word for word, but it was where the young girl was talking about how hard her life is, and the guy turns around and says, "What the fuck are you talking about? We live in the best period in history. Wake up to yourself. Life is good." And she was really taken aback, and it was basically a message for the younger generations, like, stop fucking moaning. I thought... Look, I really think the White Lotus series are absolutely brilliant. And the new one is coming out in a couple of weeks.
Yay.
Set in Thailand. Yes.
I enjoyed Will Sharp. He's written a lot of great TV shows in the last few years. He was in Giri Haji, which was amazing.
I never watched that.
You watched it with me a little bit. It was fantastic. There's also something else that I want to watch, and it is off the back of one of our recommendations from Charlene recently, Motherland. It's called Amandaland. And I want to watch it. Apparently it's the best thing ever.
Great, because I did see a little advert for that pop up on the YouTube's Amandaland. And because you had sent me a link to...
I did.
The whole thing. I knew who this character was, and she's horrendous. So I thought, this looks very fun. Actually, It just looks fun.
I also have a recommendation from Anushka, who is listening in Germany, and she has recommended High Potential, starring a lady called Caitlin Olsen, who was in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I've never seen that show.
No, me either.
I've heard it's good, though. I might have to watch it. Both Anushka and her partner agree that actor reminds them of me. And I said, well, as long as she's pretty, I approve. And she wrote back saying, yes, she's pretty, funny, good mum, you name it. Thanks, Anushka.
Oh, that is very nice. Oh, that's lovely.
One more recommendation from me. You know, sometimes I listen to music. Well, I fell into the new Mogwai album and I didn't write down the bloody name of it. And I'm not a massive fan of Mogwai. I've seen them live a few times. They're friends of friends. And I find them a little dull because I like a song to have words. They're great to listen to, not so great to watch, I found. But that was like 20 years ago. But now this album, I can't get enough.
Really? Because I would completely agree with everything you've said about Mogwai. That was my feeling on them. I saw them a couple of times way back in the day. Never really grabbed me. Because I love a melody. I love words. Yeah. I love a melody. I love something
Listen to this album. Similar to the Cure album. It's just one of those things that just kind of like got me, grabbed me, dragged me in, gave me a newfound appreciation of music because I am a musician, as are you. And it's got me excited about picking up my guitar again. It's got me excited about listening to music again. Love it.
It's so funny you say that because just recently I went through a bit of a internal crisis of I have not actually created music for too long now, and it made me feel really sad inside.
Well, apart from our jingles, we do jingles, we knock them out.
Oh, well, our jingles, they just write themselves. But an actual piece of music, and I thought if there was ever a New Year's resolution to make, and probably break because I never ever make them or keep them, a song a year. would be my
Okay.
thing. I need to get back into just writing music again
sure.
and making and singing and doing all of the stuff, because when you get inspired by someone else's creativity or you hear an album, it just makes you have that yearning inside. It's inspiring.
Yeah.
If you had that feeling from Mogwai, I'll definitely give that a listen. Thanks for the hot rec.
We had a good night in that Mogwai bar, didn't we, in Berlin? We'll go there again.
I can't wait to go back to Berlin.
Are you ready to hear my story this week, Michelle? We chose cults as our topic du jour.
I've got one for you, babe. I got one for you.
Well, I've got one for you. So shut up and listen.
Buckle up.
Buckle up, bitch. Slap the pain away, I've called it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Imagine a Wall Street banker who said, nah, to spreadsheets and decided to become a master of Chinese medicine instead. It happens, right? Big city guy.
Yeah, midlife crisis.
Having a bit of a midlife. Yeah.
Did I say midlife crisis? Crisis. Midlife crisis.
Well, imagine no more, Michelle, because I would like to introduce you this week to a man called Hongchi Xiao, and I hope I'm saying that right, who claims he switched his banking job to learn ancient wellness arts from kung fu masters and mysterious mountain hermits.
Okay, I'm loving this already. I would probably sign up for that.
I bet you would. But listen on and find out if you really would.
Okay.
Once you get all the info. 61-year-old Xiao from a place called, beautiful sounding name, Cloudbreak, California, proclaimed that these mystical mentors taught him the long-lost healing technique called, and again, I may get this wrong, I didn't run it through my accent generator, Paida Lajin, which I believe means something. I'll get onto that later. But he managed to convince millions of people worldwide that he'd discovered this forgotten healing secret.
Already, it's so intriguing.
I can see you're like, where do I sign?
I want to know what that ancient healing secret
You
is.
want to know what it is first. Yeah. To his devoted followers, he's a guru whose teachings consist of slapping yourself better. And it's a bit more than emotional, what's it called? Emotional freedom technique or tapping.
Well, you're just tapping. Tapping,
It's
you're
more
not
than that.
slapping. But
No, this is slap, not tap, I'm afraid.
happy slap.
Xiao is the product of really a quite sensible upbringing. His father was a doctor, his mother an engineer, and he was a proper finance bod who apparently even had a hand in choreographing the Beijing Olympics. Because, of course, that's what bankers do in their spare time. Throw some jazz hands into the odd Olympic ceremony between spreadsheets.
Oh, my God. Jack of all trades.
That guy's resume, honestly. But then at the age of 40, Xiao had what you might call a midlife crisis. He might call a midlife enlightenment.
I like that better.
He went off banking, but possibly not off money, and set off on what he rather grandly calls a quest. And after 7 years of mystical mountaineering, he discovered that the path of wellness involves slapping yourself silly and having a good stretch, Michelle.
That just sounds a little bit like Pilates, but with a slap thrown in.
He calls it, like I said, it's called Paida Lajin, which means, and I'm sure it's maybe pronounced Paida Lajin. I don't know. I think it's Chinese. It means exactly that, slap and stretch.
Are you slapping yourself or is someone slapping you?
He can give you a good slap, but mostly I think you slap yourself.
Okay, so there's none of this weird, like, you need to pull your pants down and somebody slaps your naked bare bottom and then it goes weird, sexy cult. Like, I don't want to hear
That's
that.
something else.
Okay. Sorry.
Fucking hell. Oh my God. You know what? You are on a similar track. It's not sexy, but basically it is just sophisticated self-flagellation with a bit of yoga thrown in. It's not normal slapping. It's divine slapping, Michelle. And apparently it was bestowed on humanity by God himself. So Xiao claims. And you can master this art in mere minutes, which makes me wonder why it took him 7 bloody years to learn something that takes minutes to teach. But whatevs? Whatever you reckon, mate.
I can slap myself right now. It's not hard. Do you know what I mean? This is not a fucking technique. This guy is so dodgy. Already, this is terrible.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yes. Xiao amassed, even though he sounds as dodgy as fuck, he amassed quite a following after his first workshop in Beijing in 2010.
Not even I would fall for this. Come on. Fucking hell.
No, we're not going to be laughing for long, Michelle, because it gets quite harrowing. He did his first workshop in 2010 in Beijing, and then he launched digitally with websites, Facebook, YouTube, all of that, the social medias. We just talked about it earlier. It's the way. As you said, it's a formula that works. And this is how he got all his followers on board. He was spreading his slapping gospel far and wide, worldwide.
But was there something else involved, like leather gimp masks and paddles? Like, do you know what I mean? What is the USP here? I can't understand why this would catch on. I don't get it.
Well, there are people who just want to feel better, Michelle, and that's why they flock to people like this guy. There's footage from 2015 from a lecture in India that he held with Xiao teaching attendees how to slap the inside of their elbows while telling them, no pain, no gain. And then he's seen bringing this guy up on stage who says he has heart disease. Xiao demonstrates slapping the man's arms to heighten the bruising. And he tells the crowd, this is what we call poison blood. Now, they're sitting there looking at this guy bruising up as we speak. And Xiao's telling them that's the poison. That is his heart disease poison. It's coming out. And he says, the harder, the longer, the more quickly it disappears. When I think harder, longer, I'm thinking he's saying the harder the slap, the longer the slapping.
When you say harder, longer,
yes, I know.
Slapping, Geordie, those three words in succession.
You're on a sexy tip.
It just, no, don't say tip. That's not just the tip.
Someone's got their mind well and truly
in the gutter, in the leather slapping gutter.
Honestly,
it's terrible.
Jen must be horrified listening to her daughter's mouth right now. Honestly, it's too sexy.
She's probably thinking, who the fuck would slap their elbow, the inner side of their elbow? And honestly, for anyone with a bingo wing, that would be fucking painful.
Yes. Right. Well, I'm going to tell you more about Xiao. He was basically running all these fancy residential workshops all across the globe, complete with something. Also, he added something, and it wasn't the gimp mask or a paddle, Michelle. It was Zen jogging, which I'm assuming is just regular jogging, but with meditation. That reminds me, I'm going to another sound bath today.
Oh, I'm kind of jealous. I would love
that. It's the best.
That.
There's no Zen jogging. It's just lying down. Fabulous.
Yeah, with the hot water bottle.
Yeah.
Nice.
But people were really impressed with the results. And the testimonials came rolling in, Michelle, so there must be something in a good slap.
I'm not a jogger. I don't really enjoy bouncy boobs and running, but...
Or pissing yourself.
Pissing yourself? Who pisses yourself? What?
Just imagine that if you're a lifelong jogger like Madonna or someone, eventually those pelvic floor muscles get a bit, lax.
I don't know. I think that if you jog and clench, I reckon that could actually be, helpful. I don't know. I'm not a jogger.
Not a clencher?
Write in if you are. I've been known to clench. Why not? Why not? Suck it in. I would say Zen jogging, that is something I would probably Google for more than 2 minutes. I would give that a little bit of airtime.
And then give up because it involves running.
Yeah.
Okay. So the testimonials, I was trying to tell you about them a moment ago before we got onto you clenching. They were saying things that they were healing. For example, dodgy knees or embarrassing personal problems. Perhaps they couldn't clench whilst jogging. All these supposedly fixed by the miraculous slapping routine. And despite Xiao later insisting that he wasn't in it for the money, Michelle, no. His claims began getting more and more ambitious. And people had to pay a shit ton of money to join these workshops.
To find the secrets of how to slap and how to jog. Fuck me.
Yeah. All the while, he's pocketing like a grand per participant and telling people, cancer, just give it a slap. Heart attack, forget CPR, give it a good wallop. Which kind of could be CPR, I suppose, whack.
Geordie, we have, if we were out here in the world to make money, podcasting, not so much. Cult leader with a slap.
Bring it.
We missed our calling. If we wanted to make money, we just needed to find some fucked up thing to just scam people out of money.
Are we those kind of people though, Michelle? Are we the sort of people who would just want to take people's money and leave them?
No, we're giving. This podcast is free on all the platforms.
We're good people, Michelle. We are good people. Anyway, back to Xiao. He was claiming his technique had spread to over 50 countries with tens of millions of followers, which is quite a feat for someone who only started teaching people to slap themselves a few years prior. And his claims that this method could cure nearly all diseases, including diabetes, was backed by him saying the severe bruising caused by the slapping showed that the toxins were being released from the body. Like I said before, you can show people, here it is, guys, look at the mess of my arm or my leg or wherever I'm slapping. And I've seen pictures. The bruising is astonishing. It's distressing.
A bruise is a result of injury and trauma to the skin. So It's not fucking bad blood, mate. It's because you slapped yourself too hard. And secondly, this does remind me of the fascia blaster, which was popular a couple of years ago. Imagine a rolling pin with spikes on it, but thick, hard, heavy spikes. You roll it over your cellulite on your thighs and wherever, and it causes horrendous bruising, which is meant to be absolutely normal, and it's meant to take away all your cellulite. Well, what it actually does, people have had miscarriages and sued the company because you're not meant to fuck with your fascia like that. And this is what this sounds like. Slap, slap, slap.
Yeah.
Not good.
Is microneedling like that as well?
No.
Rollerderma, whatever it's called.
You don't bruise with that.
Because microneedling is the eyebrow tattoo, isn't it? What I meant was the rollerderma.
Derma roller.
Derma roller, thank you.
The derma roller. No, derma rolling the skin, actually, it does produce trauma in the upper layers of the skin. Depending on how long the needle is, it can go into the deeper layers of the skin. Right. But what it actually does is it doesn't bruise the skin, but it causes the skin to activate a healing process, which then rejuvenates the skin. Oh. And I think it's absolutely probably the most natural and fantastic skin rejuvenation technique you can do that doesn't involve injectables. It is activating your own skin to produce collagen and to close up pores and do all of this stuff, because you're instigating trauma to then activate healing.
You heard it here first, guys.
Well, you know, I've done
feels into it.
Things like this. I do more than 2-minute research, and then I'm like, oh, this actually sounds pretty good. And I've spoken to dermatologists who also recommend this.
Well, that sounds great, Michelle, what you just said. But what I'm about to tell you is not so great. In fact, it's deeply troubling. Xiao began making dangerous claims about treating what I mentioned earlier, diabetes. And for those who don't know about diabetes, it's a serious medical condition that requires proper medical care daily. His promotion of these ideas, though, had tragic consequences at a workshop in Hurstville, Sydney, Australia, that led to the death, brace yourselves, of a 6-year-old called Aidan Fenton, who had type 1 diabetes. There were families that all went to this Hurstville workshop. They were all learning about the art of therapeutic slapping and fasting as well, Michelle. They were also fasting at the same time. And Xiao convinced Aidan Fenton's family to stop poisoning him with insulin. So after 3 days of poor little Aidan fasting with no insulin, the boy's mother had told the workshop group that her son's health was deteriorating and that he was vomiting. He had high blood sugar levels and high ketone levels. Yet still, Xiao continued to instruct Aidan's mother to withhold the insulin from him. And as such, poor little guy, his health continued to go downhill. So by the 5th day of this fucking workshop, he had to be pushed around in a pram because he couldn't walk or stand or dress himself. And then he started to vomit yellow and black liquid. When Aidan's mother confronted Xiao, he said to her, this is the detox. This is all the bad stuff coming out of his body from his organs, and it's part of the self-healing body adjustment. That fuckwit.
Oh my God. Geordie, as a mother,
it's really awful.
Would you be thinking, I'm not going to take a risk here. I'm taking my kids straight to the fucking hospital because I think my kid's dying? Or would you be thinking, okay, I'm going to give this another go and put your kid's health in jeopardy?
Well, Michelle, I'm not in that position. I am a parent, but my children do not have diabetes. And I don't know what caused Aidan's parents to get there, to that point where they were desperate to look for some sort of alternative to daily insulin injections and all the other things that go with being a lifelong diabetic. Of course, I would probably behave in a different way, I'd like to think. However,
but you never know.
For Aidan's parents, 4 days later, his grandmother, who was also at the workshop, took him to his room. And then when he had a seizure and began vomiting, she ran for help. But unfortunately, she locked herself out of the room. So when they finally all gained access to the room, poor Aidan was unresponsive. And Xiao was there as well. He came in there like a rocket and slapped the shit out of this kid's elbows, inside his elbows, until the paramedics arrived. But they were sadly unable to resuscitate him. And poor Aidan died as a result of diabetic ketoacidosis, which is a serious complication caused by lack of insulin. And basically what it does is turn your blood lethally acidic.
Oh my God.
Very painful.
That poor kid.
Yeah.
These parents essentially, and this is the cult episode, they were kind of brainwashed in those 5 days, I believe.
Well, nothing could be proven. And trying to point the finger at somebody to blame for Aiden's death was quite difficult. So at that time, Xiao basically left the country, but he was questioned by police beforehand, but he took off. He then told his YouTube followers, because obviously it got out there that this had happened, he said it was purely an accident and that the boy had many diseases, victim blaming.
Yeah.
So this isn't the first time his approach had caused problems. In 2011, he got kicked out of Taiwan and hit with a fine for breaking medical rules. That year, he had helped the family of a liver cancer patient and got them to fork out £2,000 for his therapy sessions. And that patient ended up passing away just 3 months later.
Right.
But despite these tragedies, Michelle, in both Sydney and Taiwan, Xiao carried on his global crusade and he eventually arrived in Cleve House in Wiltshire, England, 18 months later after the Australian situation to hold a slapping workshop. And this was now... At this point, it's October 2016. And bizarrely, this is an interesting link. I could find out no more, though, so don't ask me questions. But this workshop was partly organised by a member of the Moonies.
Oh, okay.
There's your cult link. But during the workshop, one of the 30 attendees, a woman called Danielle Carr Gom, she was aged 71, from Lewes, East Sussex. She also died after following his dangerous advice about diabetes.
Fucking hell.
Danielle also had type 1 diabetes and had attended a previous workshop in July 2016, so earlier that year. That was in Bulgaria. She had fallen ill during that workshop as well because she'd also stopped her insulin at that point, but then she got so sick she started taking it again and recovered. But then she joined the Wiltshire workshop. And she had previously appeared in a video message telling Xiao, you're definitely a messenger sent by God because you're starting a revolution to put the power back in the hands of the people to cure themselves and to change the whole system of healthcare.
So she's a believer.
Bold.
She's a believer.
Bold claims. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People are into it. She's been to more than one workshop. She's into it. This group of 30 participants at the Wiltshire retreat had to sign a disclaimer form, though, which stated that the practice of slapping was not meant for medical treatment, whilst fasting for several days as well, like Aiden's family, and drinking only Chinese tea. Bit culty when you think about it, because a lot of cults, as you know, Michelle, will mess with your basic needs like food, water, rest.
Yes.
In order to get you into a state where you don't know what the fuck's going on.
Of course. Classic tactics.
So while Xiao wasn't directly accused of telling Danielle to bin her insulin, he apparently heartily congratulated her when she mentioned stopping it. And bearing in mind she's a type 1 diabetic, replacing insulin with Paida Lajin is like recommending someone to juggle a chainsaw. It's fucking dangerous. And Xiao knew this after the incident in Australia.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I would have, if I was him, said, listen, you know, we're still working out the ins and outs of how to deal with diabetes, but everyone else can keep slapping.
Maybe, yeah, take a little insulin, continue to slap. Danielle had been diagnosed with diabetes in 1998 and had been searching ever since for alternatives for her insulin medication because she was a vegetarian. So I guess there must be something non-veggie in the insulin. Plus she had a fear of needles. So she was desperate for alternatives because you are basically on this for life.
It's interesting though, like I've got diabetic friends and now they've got these monitors that are like kind of
attached.
Yeah, 24/7. And I don't really know if they
pump stuff in
and you know, it's all AI now. It's amazing.
And you get a beep, you get an alert and stuff and things are needing your attention. But going back to Danielle, on the third day of the workshop, she was vomiting, she was tired, weak, and by the evening she was howling in pain and unable to respond to questions. Eyewitness reports from the workshop said she was delirious and frothing at the mouth before she died in the early hours of the following day on the 20th of October 2016. Xiao failed to seek medical help for her while she was crying on her bed and howling in pain, but paramedics were eventually called at 2:54 a.m. on the 20th of October, the day she died. Similar to Aiden, she died of diabetic ketoacidosis. And her son said of his mother, in recent years, Mum was in a great place with a partner, a lovely home, and was travelling the world. She had a lot of life left in her.
If you were someone at one of those retreats and you see this woman frothing at the mouth and then end up dead, what the fuck are you going to think about this slapping? For me, I would be like, oh my God.
It's not a good testament to the slapping, is it?
It's not. I would be like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah, it might make people think twice. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. The law finally caught up with Xiao, and he was arrested and extradited to Australia for the death of Aiden and found guilty of manslaughter, along with Aiden's parents and his grandmother, who were also charged with manslaughter in 2017, but were found not guilty.
All of them?
Yes.
All of them found not guilty?
Well, not him.
Interesting.
Xiao was. He was found guilty of manslaughter and he...
he was, but the family were not.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was sent back to Australia in 2019 and he was given 7 years and 6 months in prison for the manslaughter of Aiden. But then he was extradited to the UK in 2024, last year, for the trial at Winchester Court to answer the charges of Danielle's death.
This guy's dangerous.
So he was convicted of the manslaughter of Danielle by gross negligence in December 24 and was sentenced to 10 years in prison plus a 5-year extended licence period. Now, I'm not sure where he's spending that, whether he goes back to Australia, sees out his 7 years and it's suspended here and then he comes back here and does his 10. I don't know how they're doing that. But the English judge noted that Xiao showed no remorse. In fact, this guy was so full of himself that he felt compelled to compare himself to Gandhi and Mandela.
Oh my God, okay. I wonder if he was there just like giving a little slap on himself in the court.
Got tickets on himself. I don't care what you say, I'm still going to slap myself.
Well, he can slap himself in prison for the next fucking 15 years.
But in his mind, being imprisoned for convincing people to stop taking life-saving medication is on a par with fighting for civil rights and ending apartheid. That's in relation to him thinking he is Mandela or Gandhi.
Mate, people are dying. Fucking wake up to yourself.
He believed that slapping therapy, though, was just too advanced for those in the media and medicine fields to comprehend. But it's important to note that his form of slapping therapy was not actually recognised by the Association of Traditional Chinese Medicine. But nevertheless, Xiao continues to practice and promote Paida Ladjin from his jail cell.
Of course he does. All those prisoners are like, come on, give me some slapping. Give me some slap love.
Or they'll give him some slapping.
Yes. Bend over. Anyway.
Oh, fucking hell.
I don't know whether to thank you or to just slap myself away from this story.
Michelle's getting cut. Geordie had a tear. Ben Mendel's loves brown lemonade. To you, that's a cold beer.
Crack open a cold one, love. Give us a tinny.
Eavesdroppin.
I went full cult with
Okay.
this one today. I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Katoomba?
Is that the Snowy Mountains?
Blue Mountains.
Blue Mountains? No, I haven't.
All right. Well, for you and anyone else who's not Australian, Katoomba's a small town in New South Wales. It's actually like I just said, it's in the Blue Mountains, one of the most beautiful parts of the country, just outside of Sydney. I've been to Katoomba. It is a strange place, and people have said it's got a bit of a Twin Peaks kind of vibe.
Wow.
The Blue Mountains sort of has a reputation as being a bit of a creepy place.
Creepy.
Yeah, secret, sinister things go on. I will say the worst incest family ever to be discovered in Australia was hiding out.
What?
On a squalid piece of land deep in the Blue Mountains.
Ew.
But I am not going to talk about that today because it is fucking horrific.
Isn't that something that Al Teggett wanted us to look into, but we just found it too icky? He likes the icky, doesn't he?
Yes, he loves the ick. That's the one. It's the cult family, and we are not going to go there. It's too much. Like, it's sickening. I'm instead going to talk about a little cafe on the main street of Katoomba called Yellow Deli.
Well, that's much nicer.
I went on Google to see what kind of rating it gets, and it is one of the top places in Katoomba. 4.5 on Google with 2,634 reviews as of today, and absolutely people rave about the food. This is a quote from user Zen Aura. Great food and atmosphere. At first I thought, sandwiches, salads, and soup? What's the big deal? Trust me, this place is worth the hype, the wait, and the drive. Do not skip desserts. Amazing people, honestly pleasant people. That's 5-star review. Or this one from user Stephanie Belau. Absolutely bangin' place. Don't miss this if you're in Katoomba. She says, we had sandwiches which were made with bread that they do on site. It was soft and crispy and the fillings had so much flavour in them. We also had the chili, which was a generous serve and came with jalapeno bread. The mango smoothie was also a huge glass and super flavourful and thick, and I really liked the mate drink. Like a strong green tea, but probably not for everyone. Service was great as well. We chatted with the staff who were very friendly. The design of the place is very earthy and cool, lots of polished wood and plants.
It actually sounds like the sort of place I'd like to go to.
Honestly, I looked at it. It looks fucking fantastic. She says, we ended with some banana bread and cheesecake pie, both of which were very fresh and tasty. Would definitely go back next time. I read all these reviews. It sounds, like you said, exactly the kind of food and vibe that I love. Fucking delicious. The place looks rustic, a little bit like Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth. Lots of polished wood. The chef and service, all long hair and beards, a little bit hipster. Too bad it's run by a cult called the 12 Tribes.
Oh, I knew there was going to be a drawback.
Of course. I mean, look, the thing is that people are like, would I not go there because it's run by a cult? People are on the fence.
The sandwiches are that good.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like on Google, there are mentions of Yellow Deli being a cult. Like this, for example, from Ty Rodriguez. After going to this cafe, we realized that it is owned and run by the 12 Tribes, which is a religious cult. I would recommend looking them up before attending, as I now regret supporting their business, as I don't agree with their principles and way of life. Do your research and know what you're supporting before going.
Wow.
Or this from Kat Robson. They do a really good job at building a lovely atmosphere and presenting really beautiful food, but this place is run by a cult. I wish I had known that before stepping foot inside.
Okay.
The 12 Tribes cult has some really horrible history behind it, and I highly suggest looking it up before choosing to eat here.
Okay, well, I'm guessing that you looked it up.
Or this from Tim Byrne. Pumpkin soup was amazing. Bread roll was warm and fresh from the oven. 11 out of 10. Best cult I've visited. I would give them all my assets and firstborn child in a heartbeat. People, even when they know it's a cult, they're like, the food is fucking fantastic. And in fact, there's a whole Vice article about the food is so good you forget it's a cult kind of thing.
Yeah.
If, like me, you had no idea there was a cult in Katoomba that offers the best food in town, listen on, because what I found out about 12 Tribes is toe curling. Put down your banana bread because this is a juice dropper.
Oh, God.
12 Tribes. It was founded in 1972 in Chattanooga, Tennessee, by a guy called Eugene Spriggs, who is known in the cult as Yonick. They changed their names. What they believe is basically a hybrid of Judaism and Christianity, but in reality, they're basically a global fundamentalist Christian group who believe they are the only true followers of Jesus, but they don't call him Jesus. They call him Yeshua. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yeshua.
Yeah, maybe Yeshua. And one of their beliefs is that they must reform the 12 tribes of Israel in order to communicate with Yeshua. The cult follows the Book of Revelations, and their main aim is to create an army of 144,000 spiritually undefiled virgin men.
Huh?
Yeah, to guide the 12 tribes into the afterlife.
Unfiled? What does that mean?
Undefiled.
What is undefiled? Oh, undefiled. Right.
Yes, undefiled.
I thought it was like filed under, but you were saying it wrong.
I'm not saying it wrong. Undefiled.
Undefiled. Yes, I understand it now. Yes.
Basically, pure virgin men.
Got it. To sacrifice themselves.
Yes.
To martyr themselves.
Pretty much.
Right.
Women have to be 100% completely subservient to men.
Fuck that.
Women are brainwashed to believe that their highest honour in life is becoming wife and mother. And talking about these 144,000 virgin men, I don't think they're talking about rootin', because I don't know what spiritually undefiled virgin men are. Yeah.
Spiritually undefiled, it means that they are pure, that they're virgins, and they haven't even done fingering or anything like that. or licked a boobie. Nothing.
No, I don't think so. This is what I mean. I don't think they're talking about rootin'. I think they're talking about spiritually undefiled men. Spiritually. Because they're saying...
I don't get it.
The thing is that they want their women to be baby mama slaves. Basically. So you can't have that and not have the rootin'.
Right.
You got to have the sex, get the babies to get these undefiled men. So I think they just want spiritually pure men. It's kind of weird. The worst thing about this cult is they are fully into giving kids severe physical and mental punishments for anything and everything. Basically beating the shit out of kids for things like not finishing their dinner, answering back, being too fidgety, not doing what they're told the first time. And this child punishment starts as young as 6 months old.
God, Michelle.
Yeah. Ex-members of this cult have talked about child discipline manuals that members have to implement. Things like you have to beat your kids hard with a thin whip-like rod. And you have to start as young as possible. And it's written in black and white in a 267-page child training manual that you have to hit your 6-month-old if they wriggle.
Oh, my God.
So if you're changing their nappy and they wriggle, you must hit them hard and repeatedly so they learn to respond and be still. Because basically you need to show them early who's in charge. It's absolutely sickening. And young families are definitely a target for this cult because, you know, they want to get their hands on them kids early so they can start brainwashing them young and beating them into submission and building up the numbers for these 144,000 virgin, undefiled men. So 12 Tribes believes that Jesus, aka Yeshua, can only return when God has, through the 12 tribes, 144,000 perfect male children. So I guess raising obedient kids is the end game here. Kids must be what they call covered at all times, which means supervised by an adult. They're not allowed to play games because playing is dissipation. They're not allowed to have toys. They're not allowed to whistle. They're not allowed to daydream or indulge in make-believe or fantasy or have books that anthropomorphize, that's right, nature.
So no Winnie the Pooh.
No Winnie the Pooh, no Man in the Moon, no dogs that talk, nothing like that. Kids were not allowed to talk back to one another unless they were supervised by an adult, as this could encourage foolishness. Unquestioning obedience is mandatory, and if you're not doing that, you get the rod. And parents are instructed on how to use the rod in monthly child training sessions and also in the child training manual, which insists that when you hit your kid, you must make it hurt enough to produce the desired result. And that, this is a quote, stripes from loving discipline show love by the parent.
Oh, I hate it. This is horrific, Michelle.
It is awful. It's called the rod and reproof, where kids are not meant to cry, but they have to receive their discipline quietly. I will say in 2013, police in Bavaria removed 40 children from 12 tribes communities because it's a global cult after a TV program aired footage from hidden cameras that showed adults beating 6 kids with 83 strokes of a cane in the space of an hour or two. So 12 Tribes has repeatedly denied allegations of child abuse, and on its US website at the time, it said the Bavarian raids were unjust and suggested that the authorities had been, quote, manipulated by unseen spiritual powers. Still want to eat that banana bread?
No.
12 Tribes and the Amish are often thought to be similar in that the wives have to submit to their husbands. Women are encouraged to have at least 7 children.
But the Amish are a bit nicer to their kids, right?
Yes, they are.
Quite a bit.
Yes, I hope. Condoms and the pill are forbidden. Mainstream medical care is avoided, and so is technology. And for some reason, there seems to be a higher than normal rate of stillbirths at 12 Tribes. Now, 12 Tribes are rich. They buy up properties, they set up communes where if you join, you have to hand over all your money. You have to sell all your possessions and give them the proceeds. You have to sell your house. You have to give up your extended family, and you have to immerse yourself in community life. So it's a bit like the army. You get up at 6 a.m., except on Saturday, the Sabbath, where you get up at 7 a.m. Then you go to the morning gathering, or mincha, because a lot of this is based, remember, on like a hybrid of Judaism, where they sing and pray and then they work, all unpaid. So all those kids working in the Yellow Deli, it's no payment.
Oh, really?
No one gets paid anywhere. So whether you're in the farmhouse or the kitchen or in the fields or one of the businesses owned by the cult. And Yellow Deli is worldwide. It's not the only thing they do, because they also have bakeries, cafes, house painting businesses, demolition crews. They make furniture and have furniture stores. They have kids' clothing outlets. They have a printing press, leather shops, soap factories, whole food outlets.
Sounds quite culty.
And multi-million-dollar construction firms, one of which is called Builders of Judah. They do nursing homes and historic restorations. They also own a mate farm in Brazil. I mean, this cult is making big money. And according to an excellent Sydney Morning Herald article that blows the lid off 12 tribes in Australia, with first-hand accounts from people who managed to leave the cult. Like I said, no one in the world is paid for their labour. And according to Mark Illich, who is a 12 tribes survivor from Australia, he said, quote, "I'd regularly do 12 to 15 hour days. I built their Common Ground Cafe in Rozelle, their Yellow Deli in Katoomba, and every year we'd build the Common Ground Cafe at the Royal Easter Show. Once I helped them carry 40,000 in cash out of the Easter show, but I never saw a cent." He was never paid. None of them are paid. Men all have to have beards. It's law, which is why all those hipsters in Katoomba and the Yellow Deli all had beards and they all fit right in. Wristwatches are forbidden. No one is allowed to eat sugar, chocolate, coffee or tea. So I don't know how they're making all those desserts at the Yellow Deli, but hey-ho. The members all have to eat flaxseed, whole grain, millets, yogurt, kombucha.
This is good for you. I like all that.
Which actually to me sounds pretty good. You know, it is also nice to be able to choose your food. And then at the end of your shower daily, you have to rinse for a minute with cold water.
Oh, no.
Now, this is a deal breaker for me because I could never do that.
No.
Like, I hate being cold. And I know that Wim Hof and cold plunging, it's excellent, but I can't do it.
I can't do
so
it.
I would be a very bad cult member because I would sneak some hot into my shower. But if I was busted for putting hot water in my cold...
What happens?
You are punished because I have allowed my flesh to be stronger than me. Kids are homeschooled and they're not schooled with a government curriculum. They learn their own stuff. They learn the teachings of 12 tribes. So these kids are fucked when it comes to general life skills and knowledge basics. You know, there's no TV, no internet, no newspapers, no radio. They're isolated and it's all about their own community and communal living, hard work, and that really harsh child discipline. Gene Spriggs, who was the guy who founded this cult, of course claims that he is the anointed one with a direct hotline to God. He had some fucked up things to say. Things like submission to whites is the only condition by which blacks will be saved.
Oh my God. That's disgusting.
And that Martin Luther King was, quote, filled with all manner of evil. And, you know, we do talk about things like how do people get caught up in stuff like this? And we always say no one sets out to join a cult. You know, usually it's people who are at a low point in their lives who are looking for something higher, who get lured into a community that seems to be one thing, but it's really a cult. And if you Google 12 tribes, you see stories from people who managed to escape and they all say the same thing. They were conned, they were love bombed, they were told it was this loving religious community and that they would be enveloped in a safe environment, and then their kids are basically tortured.
Awful.
But, you know, people who are currently in the cult, especially in Katoomba at Yellow Deli, well, they're all telling the media they love it. And in another article I read, one of the workers at Yellow Deli said, "We're here because we felt unfulfilled in our old lives and have found a place where we can belong. We live together and work together and look after each other. We have everything we need." And I thought, yeah, except money and a fucking life. And Andrew McLeod, who manages the Yellow Deli, I don't know if he still does. This article was from a couple of years ago. This is the Yellow Deli in Katoomba. And he is an original member of the Australian branch of 12 Tribes. He said, quote, "We're a spiritual people who follow the Bible, including the parts of the Old Testament that haven't been made null and void, in our opinion." He said, "We have a wonderful tribal life together."
The shit bits.
Yeah. "And the deli is what we do to make a living and meet people for outreach." That's how they recruit as well.
Right.
"We want to be a light to the nation. We live together and share all our money, instead of being greedy and living for the capitalistic fantasy that everyone thinks will make them happy." And if you go online, you'll see that in Australia, there are two families that have been picked up by the media as cult escapees and have spoken out: the Klein family and the Illich family. In 2022, the Klein family spoke to media about how they escaped the clutches of 12 tribes, you know, the torture that their kids were put through.
Oh, man.
The Klein family, they joined back in 1999 when Matt and his wife and two kids, Tessa and Bryson, moved to a 22-acre farm in Picton, which is 1.5 hours south of Sydney. At that stage, Tessa was 4, Bryson was 2, and Matt and his wife were promised that they were entering a loving and religious group that offered an alternative, community-based lifestyle. The 12 Tribes group love-bombed them, made them feel so welcome and cared for, and they promised them the world. So they joined. And those early months were fantastic. They were smothered with love and praise from fellow members, and they felt very welcomed and part of this really solid community. But that all went out the window after a few months, and the family were ignored, which made them feel desperate but also extremely dependent because they'd sold everything. They sold their house, they sold everything, gave all their money to 12 tribes. And I think 12 tribes were like, great, we got them. And then they just kind of ignored them.
Oh.
Also, the wife, who is not named, had postnatal depression, and she didn't know how to deal with her kid, Bryson, because he wasn't sleeping at night. You know, it was disturbing the whole family. The 12 tribes promised to help the family with a naturalistic approach to his care, which was essentially child abuse. And, you know, Bryson, being a troubled sleeper, was hit incessantly because he was not behaving and he wasn't sleeping. So he was exhausted. The family were exhausted. And, of course, they were just getting hit with the rod every day. This is a quote from Matt Klein from a Daily Mail article. He says, on one occasion, just months after they joined, he said, he left Bryson with one of the elders while he completed deliveries. I asked the elder, "Oh, how did Bryson behave?" And he just said, "Not good. I had to discipline him 10, 11 times because he wouldn't come to me on first command."
Oh, my God.
Matt said, "We're talking about a 2.5-year-old boy who doesn't know this guy. What did he expect? Much to my shame, I should have picked up my kids and left at that point in time. But when you're exposed to this stuff, over time you become conditioned for this to become the norm. We had to discipline the children to prove we were obedient as well."
No.
So, you know, it's like this horrible cycle.
Yeah.
And things went from bad to worse for this family when, like, Matt's extended family, like his mum and sisters, wanted to spend time with the family and the kids, and they weren't allowed.
Oh, man.
So the clients were shipped off to Winnipeg in Canada to another commune to avoid contact with their outside family. But it didn't go well, and Matt finally found the courage to leave. But the wife wanted to stay. And then they asked the kids, who were like, 4 and 2? Who do you want to stay with? Or maybe they were a bit older, like 5 and 3. Who do you want to stay with? One child chose the mum, one child chose the dad, and the dad fled with Bryson, the boy. And weeks later, the wife came back, dropped off the other kids, said, "I don't want them," and then went back to the cult in Winnipeg, asked for a divorce. You know, Matt is thankful he managed to get his kids out of it, but they're fucked up because that period of time at the cult, those kids had, you know, no schooling, like a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
And there's another family, Mark and Rose Illich, who have a similar horror story. They were actually members of 12 Tribes in Australia for 13 years after meeting the group and being recruited at the Newtown Festival, which is apparently like a hotbed of hot pickings for vulnerable people who are like looking for something more. They joined up, sold off everything, houses, cars, diamonds, gave all the money to the cult. They were constantly told the outside world was evil and that their sins needed to be purged from their lives, and only 12 tribes could do it. And actually, Mark says, leaving is not an option. You have to understand how brainwashed you become. You lose the ability to think critically. And Rose agreed, especially when it comes to the child abuse. Thing is that Mark and Rose's son Daniel was considered rebellious, which they had to basically whip this kid.
No.
Well, they had to, otherwise they would be considered disobedient. And they kind of rebelled a little bit against this, and they were ostracized and labeled bad parents. Rose got pregnant and had a stillbirth. When she did, a senior member of the cult told her it was God's kindness that her baby was stillborn, because it would be, quote, evil to give a baby parents like them. And look, Geordie, there is so much more about what this family went through in a very detailed Sydney Morning Herald article, and also a 60-minute segment that I will link to on Patreon, because it's fucking awful. And look, while what they do to kids is absolutely horrendous, and the way they brainwash people into thinking they've joined this hippie idealistic commune, it is kind of refreshing. Like what I was asking you before about your cult. There doesn't seem to be any weird sex stuff with cult leaders and young girls.
That's refreshing.
Yes,
Okay.
because that's always like what happens.
An added layer of distress, and trauma.
But who knows? Maybe that just hasn't come out. But what did hit the headlines in 2020 in Australia, literally just days before COVID shut down the world, was a search for the bodies of stillborn babies at the 12 Tribes compound at Peppercorn Creek Farm in Picton on the Old Hume Highway in Australia, where Rose had said her stillborn baby was buried. And they did actually find the remains of at least one baby. But I think the whole investigation was quashed days later with all the COVID shutdowns.
Right.
And look, the cult is still going. People still love Yellow Deli. They're loving that banana bread. So I guess this is just a warning. Be careful. Know where you're eating. Put down that banana bread.
Put that down. I mean, no banana bread is worth the abuse and basic enslavement of people. Although, is it enslavement when they're there willingly? That is the question.
What, you mean the people who join?
Yeah, and the workers who aren't being paid, and the children who are born into it who are being abused.
Well, this all comes down to brainwashing. Where do you draw the lines? It's a very layered topic, and I don't think there are any easy answers here.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're in Katoomba, depending on how you feel about all of this, maybe give Yellow Deli a wide berth, although apparently that guy would give up his firstborn child for the pumpkin soup.
We can all make pumpkin soup at home.
Yes.
Wow, Michelle, thank you for letting us know about yet another disgusting cult. The gift that keeps giving, those cults. As you were telling me about it, I thought, where do we find them? They just keep coming and coming.
Oh, look, I think there's a never-ending supply of cults. They're out there. You just got to dig a little and you uncover creepy things.
Gosh.
But there it is. And thank you for your slappy, happy, not very happy guy.
Slappy happy guy, not very happy. Basically, both these cults, if you'd like to call them cults, especially mine, they're for your own good, aren't they? Fall into line. It's all for your own good.
Maybe I'll try a bit of slap, see if I feel better. But I just don't want to be bruised. No one wants that.
Cold showers, slapping, neither of those things appeal to me, nor does child abuse. So I'm out.
I'm out. And do you know what? I've only got 3 things left to say at this point.
I do too. So let's see who says it first. Wherever you are.
Whatever you do,
Just keep
eavesdropping.
Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping.